Hi, it's Alice. I am back with not a market update. It's been forever since I've put anything up. I've had some people message me saying, "Where is your channel?" And yes, it disappeared. Yeah, I've been a bit too candid in some of my videos about real estate and stories of behind the scenes and stuff like that, and I guess it's a no-no, so I can't be as candid as I would like to be sometimes. So I'm just going through some of my videos and complying and trying to be good about not sharing too much of the industry that I should not be sharing. But anyways, yeah, I've had some messages from people who normally follow me, and they're asking me, where are you? Why aren't you doing videos? And so, yeah, I'm back. I do want to do videos, but it's just been a bit of a hiatus to figure out how to share information without oversharing. I'm too candid. I'm always, yeah. I say what's on my mind, and I guess I should, self-edit sometimes. But there's been a lot going on, and I'm not just talking about the coronavirus or those kind of spooky things. I hope everybody's staying safe and, just being prepared, but not crazy panic buying. There's a fine balance there. If you're going to open houses, I do hope that you are bringing some kind of hand sanitizer and just being safe. I don't think open houses are very busy at this moment, but if you are, just be mindful of that. But anyways, yeah, so my main reason that I wanted to do a video is I went to a Strata insurance panel about a week ago, or a little bit more than that, and I've had a lot of people. I have a lot of buyers who are looking for condos, and also just people in the area that are kind of like, what's going on? I'm seeing this in the news, and not so much now because coronavirus is blowing everything up, but if anybody is looking for this information, I know people are wondering about it. And for us realtors, we were really worried about the Strata insurances going up and the deductibles going through the roof, and we didn't have a lot of information either. So my point of doing this video is just to share what I got from the panel, and if anybody is in a state where they're looking at condos or just keeping their finger on the market of what's going on for condos, then maybe this is useful. So I've got, all my, I'm a note taker, so I took a lot, I've got like pages and pages of notes. So I'm gonna break this video up into, I guess, a little header and then the answer of the information that I wanted to share, just so it's not me rambling on and being incoherent. So yeah, this is what this video is about. I'll do a market update for March when we see what happens at the end, and we'll see what goes on. It seems like even the listings for a Monday are quite slow today, so I think this whole pandemic issue is actually going to put a little bit of a ruffle in the market. And anybody who's been watching me before, I took my channel down and all this kind of stuff, that I've always been saying that there's likely to be a market, upset at some point, from perhaps a global event, perhaps, changes in, what the government wants to do and that kind of thing. So I'm not surprised if this pandemic does affect the market, and I think everybody's been seeing the stock market is just tanking right now. Maybe somebody is buying out there. I'm kind of waiting to see what happens, see if it goes lower, but yeah, let's get into it. And if you want to learn about Strata insurance, then stay tuned. Okay, so the first question is, of course, why are the Strata insurance rates going up? What's causing this upset? So when this started, my whole thing was, I was reading newspapers just like the rest of you, and I was reading that global warming catastrophes were causing the insurance companies to have greater payouts, and that they were not making any money. As most of you know me, I do have a bit of a conspiracy theorist side to me. I'm mysterious. And I didn't really buy it. I didn't believe it too much. I was skeptical. And I wanted to wait and see what the experts in the industry had to say. And the panel had a lawyer. It had one of the biggest Strata managers from Proline Management there as well. Great company. Proline is very reputable. And also a mortgage broker. and one other. An insurance guy, of course, an insurance guy. And they're all like in the upper levels of their companies. So they're very reputable people, and they're working with this issue as it's ongoing. So the general consensus of why this was happening overwhelmingly was the fact that insurance companies are not making any money, apparently. So a lot of the insurance companies that take on, you know, issuing policies for condos in BC and elsewhere, all over the place, like these international companies, a lot of them were also giving policies to places in Florida and, you know, places that are on the coastline that have been affected by hurricanes and whatnot. So listening to them talk about it, yes, it was global warming, I suppose, and just greater payouts. So that was affecting the insurance companies quite a bit. Also, apparently, insurance companies, you know, I didn't know this, but apparently insurance is cyclical, the rates and all that. I've never really inspected into the insurance industry too much, right? I'm not an expert on it. I know as much for you require for residential insurance, but I'm not into the depths of policies. So apparently it's cyclical, and the rates have been down for quite a while. So people in the industry who work with insurance knew that it was down and likely to go up. So that's part of it. The other thing that they said was a major issue, especially for stratas in BC, is that they have notoriously been delaying maintenance in an effort to keep down the strata fees, that kind of stuff, to stop from pulling from reserve funds. So, you know, and that's because when you're buying a condo, people do tend to look at the strata fees as, you know, it's a part of it. You know, do I want to pay $500 in strata fees, or do I want to pay $300 a month in strata fees? So a lower strata fee tends to keep the building more attractive to potential buyers, and also owning a condo can get expensive, and so owners tend to want to keep those fees down because it affects their bottom line every month, right? It's expensive. So a lot of stratas were not collecting enough money and not taking care of maintenance that should have been done. And so a lot of buildings have been having claims due to being in disrepair and not doing proper maintenance. That's always an ongoing thing with stratas. I've lived in stratas. My husband's been in you know, the councils, and it's constantly a fight to get strata fees up, and everybody knows if they've been in a condo, that's constantly a struggle. You know, Victoria especially has a lot of old buildings that need maintenance, that perhaps aren't getting it. You know, some stratas are really great with it, but the general consensus of that panel was that there's a lot of buildings in Victoria that are relying on the claims more than being proactive about maintenance. So, you know, a good thing that might come of that is that things change and they start collecting the right amount of strata fees to cover things that need to be done, but that's, like, you know, off in the distance. The other portion that they were saying was causing a lot of claims is water damage. That's, by and large, that's the largest part of why they are increasing the deductibles and all this kind of stuff, is because water damage is occurring. Even in new buildings, they were saying that new buildings can be prone to having leaks within the piping systems, because when they're nailing things in, when they're finishing off the units, they have a tendency, I suppose, I had never heard of this before, but they have a tendency to hit pipes, and, you know, over 2 years that can result in leaking or a burst pipe down the road, and that's quite expensive. So there's that. And then older buildings that have really old piping systems that are not, you know, being updated, because it's difficult to do that, right? It's pretty invasive. So if they're not being updated and they have pipes bursting, it causes damage and it's money. So that's generally the overview of why they said this was all happening at once. The other side note, which I'm sure you read in the newspaper, is that because buildings have become so much more expensive because of the property market inflating, it's just, they have to insure for the replacement costs at today's value, not, you know, 10 years ago's value. So that's expensive. Everything's gone up, building supplies have gone up. that's just the nature of the beast right now. And so you have more building costs at least to insure. And there's my dog barking. So that's the trifecta of what's causing this right now. So I will go into a bit more detail in my next question. So the biggest part that people want to know is what's the reality in Victoria and what is actually happening. The newspapers tend to exaggerate, it's whatever's dramatic kind of tends to sell. And so we were hearing things like the Vancouver building that went up like, 800% or something, and their deductibles were $500,000. So we haven't seen anything that intense in Victoria. We did have one building where the deductibles went up to $200,000 to be able to make a claim, and that is really insane. It's a lot. But as far as other buildings, they haven't seen anything that intense otherwise. Andy Sperling from Proline Management said, and he manages a lot of stratas. Proline managed the condo that me and my husband owned before we moved into a house, and they were really excellent, and they knew their stuff, and they manage a lot of buildings. And he said the average is between 15 to 20%. If it's an older building, perhaps 20 to 30% increase is what people are seeing on their premiums. Deductibles are going up too, but it's not as intense as everybody's making it out to be. So yeah, it's not a code red, but it's kind of a code yellow. It's, if you are looking at buildings that are in those target areas where they may have, water claims, or it's an old building that might have damage, or it's not maintained well, then you want to be cautious. But newer buildings that are not super high-rise buildings, that are set back from the water, you're probably not going to see something quite as intense as other buildings might. But I'll get into, in the next question, how to look for that and to protect yourself, and what we're doing as real estate agents to try and protect our buyers. But in general, no, it's not as dramatic as everybody is making it out to be. As I said, it's just something that needs to be ongoing in stratas being more proactive about limiting their claims so that we don't see these crazy jumps in the future. But yes, on average, 20 to 30% is on the high end of what we are seeing in Victoria. And if you're in Vancouver, I don't think anybody in Vancouver watches me, but if you do, I would say go watch Steve Saretsky's videos. I think he's the expert on that area. I'm not keeping my finger right on the pulse with that, so this is just for Victoria. All right, next one. Okay, so if you live in a strata, then what's the deal? What should you be watching for? The main thing that if I were living in a strata right now, I would be concerned with water damage originating from my unit. So most condo owners are pretty on the ball with this, but if you have tenants especially, that would kind of concern me. If you have a claim originating in your unit, say if your toilet overflows, or somebody leaves the bathtub running and it runs and runs, and you damage the units below you, you damage your units, the strata is going to come to you for that coverage. They're not going to be covering it from the strata's fund. They're going to come to you and expect you to have coverage for that incident. So you need to make sure that when you are looking into your insurance, that you are covered for up to whatever the deductible is in your strata's policy. So it's been problematic for buildings that have seen those really dramatic increases. My dog is walking around my office. Shh. And so some buildings have seen those deductibles go up to $200,000, and it's just not, as the insurance panel was talking about, it's where can you even get $200,000 worth of that kind of coverage? So hopefully most people who are in stratas are not dealing with that, but if it goes up to $20,000 or $50,000, then you want to make sure that you're covered for that, because the general, how are they wording it, that if damage comes from your unit and they suspect it comes from your unit, the strata apparently doesn't really have much onus on them to prove anything. It's if it seems like it has been from your unit, and it's pretty obvious to see where damage comes from anyways, then they're going to come to you to cover that, because stratas right now are not going to want to make any extra claims that they don't have to, right? Because then it's going to affect the whole policy. So the biggest thing is making sure that you're covered, especially if you have tenants. And you know, the other thing that they're talking about is putting in sensors around, little floor mounted sensors in bathrooms. So say at the base of the toilet, they can put in little sensors that will go off if there's a leak, right? If water's hitting the floor. Around hot water tanks, that's another one that, you know, if you're in a building where the hot water tanks are getting old, I mean, that's a real risk. So stratas need to be really proactive about making sure that everything is tickety-boo when it comes to how water is managed within the units. Even if older units have in-suite laundry, you want to make sure that it's a metal braided, you know, hose coming out of that. You don't want a plastic one, because again, if it bursts, it's on you. And so my general outlook on it and my take from it was water damage is avoided at all costs, especially if it's coming from your unit. And even not a lot of people have experienced this in condos, but I had it happen in my house last summer, which is if you're in an older building and you have an old dishwasher, you might want to replace it. I had a dishwasher when I bought this house a couple years ago. It was old and it was working fine, but all of a sudden it stopped working and it leaked through my floor in my kitchen down through to my garage and made a big old wet spot in the ceiling. But that's fine for me. That's going onto my concrete floor in my garage. But if that were you, well, you're causing damage in somebody else's unit. So for the cost of a dishwasher, in my opinion, rip it out and put in a new one, because it's not worth the stress of, you know, when it goes, it goes. And, you know, a lot of people are like me, you set your dishwasher and you go do something, or you're not paying attention to it. And, you know, if I were in a condo and that had happened, that would have been a claim. And so that's just one piece of advice. The other thing to watch out for, just as a side note, if you're buying a dishwasher and you want to do that and be proactive, the one that I got a Bosch, and my main thing was I want to know if it leaks, because I don't want that happening again. I'll spend more money to protect myself. And some dishwashers, not the cheap ones, but, you know, go up a little bit and get one that has an auto shut off and a pan under it that will shut the whole thing down if it senses a leak, and it has a pan to catch it. So just a tip. Because I've been looking at a few older condos with clients, and there are some really, really old dishwashers in some of these units, and it's just not worth it. You know, if you have to pay $1,000, whatever, I would do it. So anyways, that's my tip for strata owners. You know, you will probably be levied if your building has not been saving enough money and the policy premiums have gone up, you know, quite a bit more, and they don't have enough money to cover that, then they will be likely levying you for that amount. And so just be prepared. You know, as I said, it's not as dramatic, but if you are in a building that is having that happen, then you know, just be really mindful, be really careful within your unit, and as I said, don't let water hit that ground. So the main question that I'm facing as a real estate agent is, how can buyers proceed with buying condos but feeling safe about doing so and feeling like they're making a sound decision? You know, the whole news cycle of the condo market is going to crash and this is going to crash, there's a lot of sensationalism, and I don't think it will shake out that way, to be honest. I just don't get the sense. Condos are still selling very well in light of all this news that's been out since January. To be honest, coronavirus is much more likely to crash that market than this insurance stuff, in my opinion. But anyways, people are looking at condos. A lot of people do not want to spend $800,000 on houses, you know, and up. So a lot of people are looking at buying condos, and it kind of is just something that you have to approach with a bit more caution. What they are trying to get added into the documents that us realtors get when we're helping buyers look for, you know, a condo or a property, is a Form B. So that's mandatory that the management company provides that, and that will include things like the strata amount, what the parking space is, you know, the storage locker, if there's any unpaid levies or fines or whatever by that unit owner. So that's something that we get with every strata that we're looking at buying. If you've written an offer, you'll always look into that. So, you know, the trouble with right now is that if you're buying a condo, you have to ask for the policy, and you have to ask for, you know, basically all the details on the insurance to see what they are insured for, and if they have renewed yet, or if they are yet to renew, and if they're in process, or if they have been looking into that, because that's the crux, is if you're buying into a building that has not yet done their insurance for 2020, then it's a bit of an unknown. And as I said, it's not, most are not traumatic, but you don't want to be caught with your pants down buying one that does have that crazy increase, right? Because there has been like that big one in Victoria. So the big thing is looking into the insurance and seeing what the situation is there. Hopefully they will add the insurance information into the Form B, which will make it really easy for realtors to be able to see that information. If not, normally the coverage, the strata policy, I believe they include that in the AGM minutes, like the annual general meeting. Normally they'll just package it up and it will be included in there, but as I said, this is kind of, you're looking for this year's right now, and it's really important to see this year's insurance. So yeah, it's something that we're asking for and just trying to figure that out. The other thing that I've always done, as I've always said, I'm not really a high volume realtor. I'm more like, I like to really handhold and go one-on-one with people, and I always read through every minute I can get my hands on with a condo, because I know condos can hide deferred maintenance and things like that I want to know about. I don't want people having surprises and getting, you know, bills and levies and this kind of thing for maintenance that has been deferred, and you know. So the thing to look for if you're buying a condo is to go through the minutes, and most realtors, it's very rare that they don't provide 2 years of minutes and AGM minutes. So what you want to do is read through all your strata minutes really thoroughly, and some people do when they're buying. Some people are a little bit more like, I love the condo and I just want to buy it, and they'll skim through. So it's just time to be really diligent in reading everything that you can on the condo before committing. So that doesn't mean you can't write offers. You know, essentially normally you will only read through all those minutes and depreciation reports and engineering reports once you've made an offer, because it's kind of, to do it on every condo you look at, you can do it, but it's, you know, it is what it is. But what you want to look for is anything that mentions water, ingress, leaks, puddles in the parking garage or wherever, right? Anything that talks about moisture is what you want to look for, because that's going to be an indicator that they have issues with water in one way or in another. And as I said, that is the main cause of the claims, so really important to look for. The mortgage brokers are also requesting this, right? The lenders want to see that stuff now because they are concerned, because for instance, if a building has trouble with their insurance and, you know, they are looking at it like, we can't resell this unit, it's got deductibles that nobody can even, you know, get coverage for, then it's going to be troublesome to lend on that. So they are going to be reading through that as well. So, you know, between your realtor, your lender, and you know, you'll have a bit of a fail-safe there to be informed and, you know, conscientious when you're making your decision on whether to remove subjects or not. You know, that's really the long and short of it. I could go into more detail. I'm just looking at my you know, they basically said $25,000 to $50,000 deductibles for high rises will be like the normal amount for you know, if you're trying to gauge what it might end up, that's kind of what they're predicting will be the normal deductible that you need to insure for. Yeah, and also the system that they were talking about that detects water, they were calling it the Maestro System, which I didn't know about, but I'll be looking into. And as far as buildings not being able to get insurance, I know they were talking about that in the news a bit, and there's only been one building on Vancouver Island that hasn't gotten insurance, but it's up island, and they didn't even have a lot of detail on it at the panel, and it's likely not going to be an issue in Victoria unless it's maybe a really, really troubled building. That's about it. If you are buying a condo, just be mindful. You know, I've always said that it's not the strata fees so much that you're paying per month, it's really how healthy is the overall financial situation of that building. So, you know, that's just, you know, going through the depreciation report, looking at the financials, looking at the whole picture, what maintenance is coming up, what have they not done, that's where it's really important. For example, some stratas I've seen, they will put all their money into updating the exterior of the building to make it look modern and fresh, and they do a great job. But then you'll go into the minutes and you'll see that they're having electrical issues and they haven't updated their electrical systems, and that's kind of scary. That's a fire hazard, right? So some older buildings, they might look a little not as great, but sometimes they're really good at maintaining the things on the inside of the building, like the internal organs, not just the exterior. So it really is case by case, but it's not impossible to buy a condo right now. It's just be really careful. And as always, I would say take your time, sleep on your decisions, read all the documents, and just be really sensible, and don't buy for the short term to, you know, flip a property right now. I'll just reiterate that for the people in the back. Don't buy properties to flip them right now. The market seems a little, you know, we'll see what happens with this insurance thing, but it's also, as I said, the coronavirus thing is, if it crashes the financial markets, you know, it will ripple throughout all industries. So just be cautious, please, and thank you. And I hope you all are, you know, doing really well. And I hope to just get back on the bandwagon of posting videos, and I'll just have to learn to be a little bit more planned out in what I say. I'm not as candid as I normally am with my big fat mouth. And yeah, so take care, be safe, enjoy the sunshine, try not to stress too much, and I will catch you later. And if you have any questions about stratas and you want a specific answer, just email me. I'm not going to put the comments open right now because I don't know how I'm allowed to really interact with the public as a realtor. I don't want to have any conversations that I'm not supposed to be having in the comments. So just for the time being, I'm keeping it closed, but I'll probably open it up later, just for now, just so I don't have to think about that, you know, with everything else going on in the world. But yeah, you can email me. My email is in the description below, and I'm happy to help, so don't be shy. All right, have a great week, and I'll get you later. Bye.